last year, the Biden administration expanded an immigration program. It allows migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to receive parole and fly directly into the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security never shared where the flights land. Reports previously suggested that Florida might be a key destination. That's despite the fact that the Republican-led state is against uncontrolled immigration. Now, House Republicans have obtained documents through a subpoena. They show where the immigrant flights landed during the first half of 2023. Miami and Fort Lauderdale were leading the list, with over 150,000 arrivals in total. In comparison, New York City is in the third spot, with only around 15,000 arrivals. In total, the program flies immigrants to 50 different cities across the country. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Tuesday commented on the program, focusing on President Biden.
Not only is he letting people come through the border, he's actually flying in people from places like Haiti under an illegal parole program.
The Biden administration argues the program is a safe and orderly way to bring immigrants into the U.S., avoiding human trafficking and other dangers. Republicans from the House Homeland Security Committee on Wednesday criticized Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over the program. They said that this violation of the Immigration and Nationality Act is just one reason the House voted to impeach him. Also on Wednesday, committee chairman Mark Green spoke on a panel of the Center for Immigration Studies, discussing the failed Mayorkas impeachment.
The failure to remove him from office from that is an incentive to people to do whatever they want. We just further strengthen the royalty of the executive branch.
This comes as a new Gallup poll shows that 27% of Americans say immigration is the most important problem the U.S. is facing. More than any other issue, including the government, the economy, and inflation. The poll did not differentiate between legal and illegal immigration. Virginia Gibson, NTD News.
Dangerous to female athletes. And in women's soccer news, former Team USA standout Carly Lloyd shared a very happy personal announcement on social media. Dave Martin joins us to discuss after the break.
United Nations, the U.S. government, with, for example, Customs Border Protection, Department of Homeland Security, how the process is facilitated. We will show you exactly what is happening and exactly how it works. This is a very important film. Again, it's called Weapons of Mass Migration, and it premieres May 9th on epictv.com. Let me show you a trailer.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop.
According to statistics, around 7.2 million illegal immigrants entered the United States under President Joe Biden alone. They have United Nations facilities here, and the people pushing this are leading people to their death.
To what extent is the United Nations facilitating the border crisis?
They're being overridden by international powers.
We are not authorized to talk.
It is a humanitarian business now. And they said, oh yeah, these are the debit cards. We're giving these debit cards to you.
Why all the cloak and dagger? Why are we being so stealthy about this?
Some of these people have gone on record and publicly talked about this, people close to Barack Obama.
It is 12 million people on the path to citizenship and eventually voters.
I've been researching, of course, what's happening, but I want to know why it's happening.
We'll see chaos on a global scale until America is extinguished and the power shifts completely to the east.
Calculated. But roughly speaking, there's the direct impact of using energy when we travel or to power our homes. And there's the indirect impact of the energy that's used to create all the things we use or consume.
FICO, a company that calculates our personal credit scores for things like home and auto loans, predicts that ESG criteria will soon be a part of our credit scores. In this way, our personal carbon footprint could affect the rate at which we can get a bank loan, or even whether we can get a loan at all. Banks are becoming increasingly political. To achieve the goal of racial equity, Bank of America announced in September that it would provide mortgages to minority groups with no down payment required. An Australian bank recently took the lead in canceling loan programs for gasoline and diesel-powered cars. A subsidiary of JP Morgan Chase was threatened with a boycott by Missouri's state treasurer for abruptly canceling payment services for a conservative political rally there. Gun control has been another area where banks have gotten political. It started under the Obama administration with a program called Operation Choke Point. Having failed to get Congress to pass his gun control agenda, President Obama arm-twisted banks to do what he legally could not do. Operation Choke Point included threats from bank regulators against banks that lent to gun shops. Gun shops suddenly found their bank accounts terminated without cause or explanation. Operation Choke Point was officially ended by the Trump administration in 2017, but banks continue to discriminate against these industries today.
Seen that the major corporate banks, including Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, have all been adopting discriminatory policies against the fire industry. They want to instill some of these policies that are well beyond what federal and state law already dictates. So what we're seeing is corporate governance instead of governance by our elected leaders.
Funny expression.
Even if we do disagree with the viewpoints, the state apparently gets to have its cake and eat it too, with no responsibility for the pressure it places on private companies under tacit threat, while having its aims of alternative viewpoints being limited. The administration admitted that it would violate the First Amendment to coerce censorship, but what about its persistent encouragement, incentivization, and accusations of companies killing people by allowing misinformation as they've defined it? Does that not cross into the realm of coercion? The free speech group FIRE says there's, quote, copious evidence of improper government meddling, from demanding posts be removed ASAP to threats of retaliation like revoking Section 230 protections if requests aren't followed. When the FBI requested takedowns, it seems that the platforms had to ask how low. The Electronic Frontier Foundation flags some close cases of likely unconstitutional pressure, like a White House aide pestering Facebook about specific posts. Did federal officials become so entangled in content moderation that they could rewrite platform rules from the inside? Or was it all just friendly suggestion and gentle guidance that platforms could take or leave as they saw fit? And if that's the case, why did some admit to adjusting their policies based on the requests? The administration may have seen itself battling a crisis of disinformation after the events of January 6th, but does fighting that perceived threat justify government interference? Even arrests because of Facebook posts? And who decides what's true and false? What misses or disses? Should bureaucrats be the guardians of what's permissible to think? Free speech aims to keep the marketplace of ideas open, letting you and I discuss, rebut, and decide on controversial claims for ourselves. When should the lines be drawn when it comes to the government's role in curating that marketplace? Well, the court's answer could shape how well or how poorly transparency and free speech survive in the digital age. And with stakes that high, we better think long and hard about our answers to these questions. Thanks for watching.
Now open after a gasoline tanker burst into flames, scorching the bridge, closing the roadway for days. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured. Workers demolishing the bridge to repair the damage in time for Monday's rush hour. The interstate serves as a major link between New England and New York City. Repairs are estimated to cost $20 million. Internal feuding among House Republicans on Capitol Hill is raising questions about the future of Speaker Mike Johnson. Could he
with the city attorney 5 days before the shooting, and we warned him. We believe something bad is going to happen here. He basically just said, organize your neighborhood and confront them is what he told me to do. Confront them, which we found just astonishing.
Confront the owner?
Confront the people staying there, which I ended up doing a number of times, putting my life at risk. I don't know who was there. A lot of young kids.
But how does that work? Because there's going to be new people coming every time, right?
Exactly. I don't know if it's lack of staffing from code enforcement or what the issue is or why these communities are not enforcing the law against these bad operators.
So when there would be these parties, was it regularly?
It was regularly, yeah. It was happening at least on a monthly basis, sometimes every weekend. You'd have different people in and out, making loud music.
And then you would call the police?
Well, sometimes when you call the police about the marijuana smoke, they couldn't do anything about that. You're just given kind of, conflicting information. We called code enforcement. They say call the hotline, call my councilman, call the hotline, and you end up calling the police. Just think of the burden this puts on the homeowner who's living right next to this, or the street that's living right next to this. It disrupts your entire life. I mean, these are unvetted people. Airbnb itself admits they can't vet who's in these residential homes.
And you have other residents that are in your area that are dealing with the same.
Oh, yes. Right? Many other residents deal with similar issues. I have a neighbor that lives a few streets down, and she's been telling me that there's been all kinds of issues with the short-term rental operator deceiving them in terms of who's even to be coming into these properties, like putting fake families in for a few days to make it think that your real family is coming in there. 50, 60-person party down near Belmont Shore. People have been dealing with all kinds of issues down there, especially on the coast. There's no enforcement. That's really where it comes down to. The city either isn't staffed or is unwilling to enforce the code when it comes to these things. So that's really where the problem lies, is just a lack of enforcement, a lack of care for the safety of homeowners.
You never know who's going to be there. You never know if it's going to be a family, if it's going to be a bachelorette party, birthday party, Easter weekend celebrations, or anything to do with any events that are happening in the county. So every week you have limousines pulling up, wine country, party buses. It's totally disruptive. It's not conducive to having a normal family life. I don't know anybody else that has 16 people staying next to them or living next to them. We're impacted by noise. We're impacted by fear of safety, that we're not sure who comes in, not normal neighbor behavior. Usually on a Sunday morning, you don't have a bachelorette party next to you in the hot tub at 8 a.m. drinking champagne and telling explicit stories of their sexual encounters with as many boyfriends as they have had. You don't have strip beer pong next to you. You don't have those type of neighbors. You don't have foul language all the time. It's totally changed our neighborhood and the dynamics of our neighborhood.
Regarding the complaints from homeowners who have dealt with disruptive parties and safety issues, we reached out to Airbnb for a response. And here's what they have to say. The vast majority of hosts and guests on Airbnb are responsible neighbors and travelers, and issues are rare. Airbnb continues to invest in industry-leading tools and resources for our hosts, guests, and local communities to promote safe and responsible travel. Next, we sit down with Jean Young, who has been a host for over a decade in Long Beach. She'll share with us a different perspective on short-term rentals.
I've been a host for over a decade, and I've lived in Long Beach for 35 years. I love my house. It's a very retro 50s modern house with a U-shaped open plan form. I love the neighborhood and the community. My neighbors know that I Airbnb. In fact, I get a lot of guests from my neighbors because they have their kids or their grandkids who are coming into town and they need a place to stay and they can't accommodate them. I try to be an exemplary host, a very good host, So I communicate with my neighbors what's going on. I feel like my presence there, instead of me selling my house and leaving California, I think I contribute to, or Airbnb helps me contribute to neighborhood stability and vitality, because you want residents that are invested in the community to stay there. You don't want them to leave like so many others have done out of the state. So yes, there are bad actors out there. And I think the city recently strengthened enforcement, and they're working with Airbnb to delist the bad actors. But we had one unfortunate incident in late December with a shooting at an Airbnb property that got neighbors really very riled up and concerned, as they should be. But if you look at the number of noise and nuisance complaints, it's really an anomaly. It's a one-off. It's not an everyday occurrence. Most people coming here are tourists or they're travelers. They have an intent and purpose. I get a lot of travel nurses, locum tenens physicians, physical therapists. People are here for an internship or residency, as well as tourists. And so the likelihood of causing noise and nuisance complaints is rare.
From what it seems like, it's your house, you care about it. And you make sure that the guests that come, they follow the rules and follow your house's rules, which means your community's rules. There seems to be some players where they have guests that pretty much don't care. And they're trashing the homes too. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the few bad actors out there should be delisted, both by the OTAs, the online travel platforms, like Airbnb or VRBO. And I think the city has strengthened recently enforcement to really pinpoint the bad actors, especially if there's any act of violence on the property, that they need to immediately be delisted and banned from the platforms. There are